All right. Hello out there, everyone, and to our physical attendees here. We're going to go ahead and get started with our last session with our candidates today. These candidates are vying for Kent School District Board. And I'm sure they're going to have some great answers to the questions that we prepared. And again, if anybody asks, why don't they do the questions ahead of time? Because we want real FaceTime answers. You know, some things are you already prepared for, but we try to keep it real, if you know what I mean. So with that said, thank you to everyone in the audience who's still here with us. And thank you for all of those out in Facebook land. And just rest assured that you will be able, the candidates will be able to go back and visit the whole offering today. So you will have a chance to see who did what and see how you sounded and all that good stuff. So we welcome you here. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our wonderful moderator, Mr. Charles Karsten.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Charles W. Karsten. I am the operations manager and senior advisor to the executive director, going down in Karsten. KBAC has been since the beginning of 2011, providing the local community with information and a voice to share their concerns with our elected officials. Obviously, I'm also the moderator for today's forum. I want to make a quick statement about voting rights. It's important for citizens to realize that to influence legislative policies at the federal and state levels, you must begin at the local level, and that includes the school board. The local level is where your vote can be the most powerful. The local level is where your state representatives come from. Your state representatives then move on to the federal level, either through election or by appointment. My point is this: use your vote to build your community. Voting rights are under assault in many states across the country. Your vote is your voice. Use your vote and protect your vote. Now, as mentioned earlier, we now have the Kent School District candidates at the table. And we have Mr. Andy Song, who's running unopposed. And then we have Mr. Andy Carter, who I believe is the incumbent, and Ms. Megan Margell as the challenger. Oh, it's the reverse? I'm so sorry. Right. I'm so sorry. And I thought I was up on my local politics. I guess I'm not. Excuse me. And then we have Leslie K. Hamada, the incumbent, with Donald Cook as the challenger. Now I'm going to open it up to the candidates they'll have 90 seconds for an introduction and opening statements. We'll start with Mr. Songs. This is over there at the end of the table, and we'll just work this way.
Great. I'm going to start off by saying thank you to KBAC for hosting this event and having us all here, giving us a platform to be able to share our thoughts about how we're going to impact change in the Kent School District. My name is Andy. I'm a behavior analyst and a health therapist. I run my own counseling agency in both King and Pierce County. I can bring a new perspective to the ongoing changes in the landscape to mental health care in schools. And so Hopefully, your vote for me will help introduce new perspectives and a voice as a provider to be able to integrate new ideas, new innovative ways to support the growing needs and changes of our students.
Hi, I'm also Andy. I'm running for Kent School Board, District 2. And I would also like to thank the Kent Black Action Commission for hosting us all today. I think it's great to get out and have to speak what we have to say, right? Let the people here in Facebook land. And ideally, I'm running because I want to be a voice of change and create a voice of accountability. Most recently, we had a bond failure and people spoke. They said they want to see change in leadership. I would like to be part of that change and help pass bonds and levies going forward and make the Kent School District everything it should be.
Hi, my name is Megan Margell, and I am a graduate of Kent School District. My husband's a graduate. My kids are currently at Kent Ridge and Northwood and in part of the district. Family also worked as a teacher. My mother-in-law, 30-year retiree as a teacher at Kent School District. My father-in-law as a bus driver. We believe in Kent schools. And when I got to choose where we wanted to raise our family, we chose Kent because of the community and because of the schools that we wanted to make sure that our kids also got to have as part of their lives. I believe in giving back to the people and to the organizations that have given so much to you. And I am so thankful what Kent has done for me and my family. I've been able to be a double dog, graduate of University of Washington, and then I also have my Master's of Business Administration, also from the University of Washington. And with that, and then my 30-year experience in finance, I believe that I'm the candidate that can be able to look at a balance sheet, can ask the hard questions, and really make sure that Kent School District is on the path that we really wanted. The best is still yet to come for Kent School District. I was able to come into the district just last year in an appointed position, just starting less than a year ago. And I'm looking forward to having the vote of our community to be able to continue that path of being able to add accountability, but also that vision of really where are we trying to get to and making those decisions and asking those questions along the way. I want to thank very much the Black Action Commission, the Kent Black Action Committee for having us here today so we can have the opportunity to talk about it. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Leslie Hamada, and I'm really excited to be here tonight. KBAC has done a lot, not just this, because I've been to several of them, but they do a lot of great things in the community, and we certainly need that. We need our community and our partnerships to build our communities. A little bit about me is why I started running for the school board is because basically one thing, I love kids. I think there's no better thing that you can do in society than to reach out and affect our young people. So I've been active in the community for a long time, doing lots of stuff. And when I retired, I thought, I am not really ready to quit working, but I'm ready to be in a formalized job. I have a career, 32 years in professional sales, marketing, communication, and writing that I've done over the years. I've been in the schools and active in the schools for a long time. I've held executive leaderships on 3 different districts in Malt Lake Terrace, Edmonds, and University Place, where my kids went to school. And now I'm still actively involved in the schools here in local PTAs. But I want to continue with fiscal responsibility. I want to continue with listening and being transparent and communicating with our community, and always emphasizing safety and equity in our schools. Thank you very much for having us tonight.
Hi there. I'm Donald Cook. I'm a graduate of Kent schools. I went to both Kentwood and Kent Lake. I have been around the area for a very long time. I started my time in Kent back when I was 5 years old. My family has been in the area for the past 90 years. My great-grandmother graduated from Kent High School before there was a Kent Meridian or Kent Lake. Kent Wood or Kentridge. As far as that goes, all of my family has been very involved in the school district. I'm also a United States Air Force veteran. I served during both Iraqi freedom and enduring freedom, having spent 2 deployments in both of those locations. I'm excited to be part of the board because I do believe that I can make a difference. My kids both go to the schools in this area. My daughter, who's 13, goes to Matson, and my younger daughter goes to Sunrise Elementary. And I'm just really wanting to make a difference. I'm looking forward to being able to help this district get to a point where bonds and levies are passed without a question, because the community trusts and believes they are doing what is best for the community at large here. I really do think that it's going to work well if we can all start talking to each other in a way that encourages all of us to work together. And I think that that's something that can be done, and I'm excited to try. I do want to thank the Kent Black Action Commission for allowing me the time to speak with them.
Thank you. Thank all of you. Now we're going to start with our questions. The first question evolves around budget and funding. Given the budget constraints that school districts often face, what strategies will you employ to ensure the Kent School District receives adequate funding to support its educational goals and initiatives? And Mr. Cook, we'll go ahead and start with you.
Sure. So obviously, recently we had the bond measure fail in the spring. I believe that's an indication that the community does not believe that the board currently, in their current position, is doing what's necessary to provide for a quality education for our students, and that they're being responsible with those funds. That is something that I believe we can change. And I think it's very important that we take a look at the community as a whole and take all viewpoints in and make a decision on how we're going to move forward. The only way that we can make this work is by working together, taking in all of the data that we can get, and then going forward from there. The issue with our budget shortfalls has to do with things like this. If we're not able to pass bonds, that is going to decrease the ability of our district to do the things that we want to do and provide the things that we want to provide. I hope to be able to change that, and I hope I can get your vote to do so.
Budgets and finance, real fun topics. They're more complex than a lot of people realize. In my professional career, I oversaw 3 territories, 3 different states, and huge $1 million budgets. I know a little bit about hard times, and I know a little bit about good times. And even in the hard times, sometimes you have to work a little harder. I'm not sure that not passing our bond is an indication that we're doing terrible things. I think a lot of people right now today are hurting. And sometimes when they see their taxes potentially going up, they want to make sure they understand it all. And maybe, getting to that 60% threshold to pass a bond is very difficult. What we're doing now, and what I've been encouraged to see as I've been on the board, is we're talking with our community. When I first started going to, I've gone to meetings in Kent School Board for a long, long time. But when I've gone to the meetings, I turn out for the bond meetings, I turn out for all the different kind of meetings they had at the school. They would give you about a 25-minute lecture and then 5 minutes for question, and you were out the door. Now I have really noticed that our staff is working hard to work in partnership with our community. At the last town hall meeting that I went at, which was our first one that we did online and in person, they had all our heads of our school district talking about, our administrators talking about the budget and really getting into the questions. And they personally just had a few opening statements, and then they opened it up to questions to ask. So individual people in the community could really get their voice heard. I think change takes a while, I think our culture does need to start changing in Kent, but I do see some inroads that are really happening where people are moving toward really inclusive of the community, bringing them in more, bringing in more partnerships, because quite frankly, we're realizing these budgets and stuff, we don't have enough money to take care of all the issues.
Thank you. Same question to you.
It is no question that our schools are underfunded. You know, in Kent alone, we do not meet the needs from the state by $16 million a year. And so how we have it set up in our state is that then we have to go to our voters and ask for bonds and levies. And to be able to meet some of those basic needs, education. So first, there's the working with our legislators and seeing how we can change that, how we can make it so it's not a 60% threshold, and how do we fund our schools? I think that has to be said. The next thing that we have to talk about is our recent bond, and yes, it failed. I don't believe that we can just assume that it's because that we don't support our schools, because I really do hear from our parents, I hear from our community that we really do love our public schools and we believe in public schools. And what I do believe is that it was a very big ask, and it was a very big ask without any buildings. And on a bond, you kind of expect buildings to be in there, and that wasn't seen. So we had made some strategic decisions about what went into that bond to be able to repair the ones that we had, and that wasn't chosen. It was also put out at a time when, and I think Director Hamada had made this point too, that a lot of people are hurting. They're feeling their finances. They are feeling that milk is more expensive, that going out to dinner is more expensive. And so it wasn't a really great time to go out for a bond, but that's when ours came due. And so I think the best thing that we can do within our district is to be able to communicate to our community more, talk about what's in it, what happens when we don't pass the bonds, what happens when we don't pass levies, and make sure that we're hearing the voices of the community, all the community, and that we're meeting those needs within the confines of the bonds and levies that we're putting forward.
Thank you, Mr. Carter.
Funding's an interesting topic. I hear about it a lot. I've talked with many voters on this topic, and I think one thing we can probably all agree upon is that the state is not going to 100% fund schools. So what are we going to do to help make up the gap? And when I say make up the gap, I'm not talking about cutting programs, cutting people. How do we put more people into the classrooms? What plans are in place, to help make up for this big gap? Why are we adding more people, more administrative people in the district office when we could add more adults in all positions within the schools? Does that make up for funding? Well, it's a better utilization of resources because it allows more students to take advantage from a better learning environment. Cutting staff back, whether it's paraeducators, teachers, even coaches, that's not going to help our students. So we need to have that student first mentality. We need to understand what's going on with our budgets and foresee what's going to happen. And how do we best put our mindset back to student focused? I believe the best thing for our students is to have more adults within the classroom, rather the school buildings. That's more people in office managers, custodians, health techs, people that can go and make a difference in our students' lives. Will that solve the budget problem? It's not going to solve the budget problem. However, it will help us manage better in terms of the environment our students are in.
Thank you. Mr. Song.
Yeah, I think a lot of the members up here made very valid points about the complexities that surrounds the nature of understanding a budget, bonds, the levies. And I think what it comes down to is education. As members of the board, that should be first and foremost our role and responsibility, is to educate the public. I was one of those homeowners and residents of Kent who did vote against the bond. When I read it, there was a lot of nuanced language I didn't understand. I didn't know where the money was going. And I think a part of what we can do as a board to fix those is to make sure that we work on our communication, understand the voters and the community members, and presenting information in a way that we're trying to convey accurately. Also, I think just to incorporate another piece is when we're thinking about bonds, I think another part of the conversation needs to focus on why does the cost keep going up? Using my own personal experiences, I've spent some time working over at Seattle Children's. I helped develop one of the inpatient programs. I've worked with many children who are suffering with various mental illnesses. And one thing that came up very commonly was the cost associated and the budget constraints that were a responsibility of school districts. When we think of education, if a school district is unable to provide the educational needs to children who have behavioral issues, mental health disorders, or any other kind of cognitive disruptions, the school eventually has to pay for that somehow. And in the state of Washington, we don't have long-term residential boarding programs. And so oftentimes these students who we can't serve in our schools are sent out of state. When we look at the cost of one child who can go to an out-of-state mental health education system, we're looking at upwards to $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year. Now, if you get a child who's 10 and they're able to stay in these programs through their 21st birthday, that's over 10 years of investing up to $500,000 to uphold the services for this child. Now, I think we need to take a look at the numbers and really do some fact checking and understanding where a lot of our pitfalls are coming. And I think that's something that I can bring to the table.
Thank you. And now for the next question. What do you believe should be the top 3 priorities for Kent School District over the next 4 years? And how do you plan to address them if elected? We'll start with Mr. Saul.
You said 4, right?
Oh, excuse me. I said 4, but I didn't mean Mr. Carter. I want to start with Mr. Carter.
Oh, okay.
Look at
I know. The two Andys, right? Put together. So the top 4 priorities I see is needed. Excuse me?
3 priorities.
3. Okay. The top 3 priorities. I guess I'm going to kind of go back to what I've been talking about, not in this forum, but throughout my campaign. You got to look at your students, your staff, and your community. Students are always going to be our number 1 priority, whether it's budget, athletics, programs within school. We need to make sure we fund them, especially regarding to special education, along with high cap and all those paraeducators that make our kids successful. Early intervention in the elementary school age will help our students become less reliant on needs. Not always 100%, but it'll help them when they get to that middle school, high school age to help develop and evolve with their fellow students. I talk about teachers and staff members. We got to make sure we're retaining them. Without the teachers and the staff members, we're constantly hiring new people. We're having people come in that are going to be role models, ideally for our students, no matter what level they're on. And if we don't maintain those high level of education, educators, we're going to do a disservice to our students. And then also with the community wants to see leadership from the school district. They want to be able to pass the levies and bonds. They want to feel like they can trust. The previous question we heard a lot about budgets and what people are thinking out in the community. Well, yeah, we need to figure out a solution to solve that because we're going down a downhill fast. And if we don't change it now, we're going to be at the point of no return. So again, that's why I'm running here today. That's why I'm sitting here speaking about this, because I feel I can help make that change.
Thank you. After you.
My priorities. First one, I would say we need to make sure that we retain and that we attract a quality workforce. And that is our teachers, our paraeducators, our administrators. And we need to put a very solid commitment to making sure that our teachers look like our students. And so that goes into the hiring practices that we have as a district and how we retain our teachers that bring the educational needs to our students every day. Next one I would say is a commitment to equity, and that is both in our programming and that is in our buildings, our offerings that we have. We need to make sure that our schools in the Valley have the same programs and the same facilities that our schools in Covington and Fairwood have. We need to make sure that the football field down here at Mill Creek works for our kids, that they're not going to get sprained ankles when they play football on it. We need to make sure that our new middle school has a choir, because Ridgewood does, Fairwood does. Why are our other schools not having that? So those are the things that we need to make sure that there's equity in our programming and in our buildings. I think we did an amazing job with Canyon Ridge and opening up a beautiful new middle school. We need to just make sure as we continue to grow that school that the offerings that we have for our students are equitable. The last thing I would say on this one is fiscal oversight. I feel it. It is more expensive to go get groceries today than it was yesterday, and it was more expensive than it was 2 weeks ago. And we need to make sure that the money that we are using from our taxpayers is matching the values of our community, and that it is being used in a fiscally responsible way. And that is why my background in working in finance is so well suited for being in this job and being willing to ask those hard fiscal questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Amata.
Priorities. It's so important to have a vision and a goal, isn't it? Unfortunately, today, one of the biggest priorities I think we have to do in our schools is maintain safety. One person, when you can't get over turning off when you turn on the television, you see these unfortunate things that are happening. And we are investing in our safety in our schools. So I'm overseeing that. I've actually taken a tour of our administration building where they have all these cameras of every school in the district. And you can see what they're doing outside, what they're doing in the parking lot, and going in and finding out that we have all our schools are aware of the safety plan, because unfortunately today there's a lot of things happening in our world. And if I had my way, we'd have more gun control, but that's not happening right now. And we have had some incidents in Kent already, but they've been handled very well. They have been handled. And honestly, a lot of times things are happening daily that are stopped that we never hear about. Great things that our staff has done. Our police have come right away. We've taken care of things, of people that are running through our parking lots in our back areas that eventually got into that area we really don't know what they had in mind. But the second priority would probably be culture. And culture goes along with sustaining a great staff. And yes, we need great teachers. My daughter's a teacher. I know the importance of what they do every day and putting our dollars right in the classroom where kids are affected every day. But we have to have a culture where people want to work in Kent, that they like coming to Kent. We did at our last contract with our paraeducators, we put forth an effort to increase their pay. It's not enough, I realize that, but we're trying to do as much as we can. As legislative rep this year, I really pushed in that area for more money for our paraeducators. And I'm sorry I didn't get to number 3. I'm too long-winded. Thank you.
So I take a little bit of a different tact. All of the things that my fellow candidates have said are all very important. I'm not going to argue that. But I think the problems that we have in this district are deeper than what these things being fixed would resolve. Communication, transparency, and accountability. That's what I've been talking about since I started this campaign. And it's still what I believe is necessary for us to get to the point where we can do the things that they're talking about here. If we can't communicate among the board and within the district, as well as with our citizens, it's not going to go anywhere. We just can't get there. We need to be able to have an open and honest communication with everyone to make sure that all voices are heard and we're able to do things that we want to do and get to where we want to go. As far as transparency goes, there's often a disconnect between what's happening in the district and that's wrong. There should never be a time outside of very extenuating circumstances that require it due to legal reasons that the board is doing something or the superintendent is doing something that people don't know about. It should always be aware at all times. Everyone should be aware of that. As far as accountability goes, I think we need to make sure that we hold people accountable. If you don't hold those accountable that are doing their work, then how are you supposed to be able to do the things that we want to do with the district? If we don't sit there and say, this is what we planned on doing, and we want to get better at it, and look at that after 1 year, look at that again at 5 years, look at it again in 10 years, and say, what did we make a mistake on, and what can we do better? And also look at all the other districts in the entire world and say, who's doing it the best? And that's what we should be doing. And if we aren't looking for that, then I don't understand why we're here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now, Mr. Andy Song.
Yeah, I think the three things that I would focus on, in addition to everything that was mentioned earlier from the other candidates, are one, I think we need more active research or what's called action research on curriculum design and development. I think instructional learning is a really important factor within the education system. And right now, what I'm noticing, not just in Kent School District, but in many school districts across the nation, is that I think it's really cute right now where people are just trying to implement new strategies, new topics, new buzzwords, without actually utilizing research-based and peer-reviewed programs that can actually benefit students. One example being there's a recent article that came out about the utilization of social emotional learning and the inconsistencies that are seen across school districts. And the recent study found that school districts who didn't follow a specific curriculum actually hurt children more, and that children were more emotionally vulnerable and aggressive towards their families, and it went in the opposite direction. Had there been some educational oversight in terms of instructional design and implementation, I think these are different areas that we could have avoided. The other thing I think we need to focus on is heavily advocating and talking with our, not just the district leaders, but also local, state, and federal, in terms of reducing and limiting and eliminating a lot of the policies that prohibit a lot of community-based providers, interventionists, supports, and resources from entering the schools. As an individual who has worked in schools, in order to provide a service, it's very difficult. And I think in terms of equity and access, from integrating very valuable resources that we have here in Washington is part of the solution for how we advance the mental and emotional health and the educational health of all of our students. And then the last thing that I'd like to focus on is also looking at the integration of different grants and projects and seeing where are the shortfalls, where are we running into the problems where grants aren't being renewed because specific criteria aren't being met. And I think if we had a little bit more fidelity and a lot more oversight into managing and making sure that these funding resources are being upheld, then that would increase our ability to provide fiscally responsible and financial stability in terms of maintaining and ensuring the survivability of a lot of great programs that our school districts currently offer.
Thank you. And now we have two more questions to go over. I heard a lot about safety in the last question concerning priorities. So I want to ask this question about what steps will you take to ensure a safe and inclusive learning environment for all students and address issues like bullying and harassment. So we'll start with you, if you may.
Yeah. First, we are working in a community that is incredibly diverse, and we need to celebrate that and do as much as that we can to be able to make sure that the culture of Kent School District is one of inclusivity and celebrating what makes us unique, what makes us different. And the more that we can get to a place where we're celebrating those, people get along better when they like each other. And right? And so it seems silly, but sometimes it goes down just to that basic of let's get to know each other. I would say that needs to happen with the district and our labor partners. I think that needs to happen in our classrooms. And so first I would start there. I also believe that bullying is a product of oftentimes other situations that I'm not the one experienced to do that. But what I am experienced with is bringing in community partners and those wraparound services that our students need desperately. And it is not up to our students to have to ask for them. It's up for us to be able to have them and provide them and be able to make them there for, so they have them easily accessible. And the more that we can really get to the heart of our students, that you have a safer, better school. I also believe that we need to think about the safety on our buses. My father-in-law was a bus driver. It's a hard job to be a bus driver, and they are so important to our students. And so looking at how we can safely transport our students. And the last thing I would say on this one is our students are still learning. And so we want to make sure that we give them the opportunity to learn and shepherd them through this. Thank you.
Safety is, like I said before, is very paramount. We're making great avenues to do that. It does take funding to do that. We have allotted the funding to do that. We have, as a board, made that a priority. And it's surprising many times we'll get together and we're in lockstep on where we need to go. And we do come at it from different angles, which is important too. So I think also one of the biggest issues today is with our kids, the bullying and harassment. Social media has stepped that up a lot. I've gone to some sites that are pretty crazy where they get a lot of likes where they're fighting or demeaning people. And it's something we really need to address as a nation a lot more. But right now, we have multi-tiered support systems in our schools. I think more professional development and using those with equity in every school, because it seems like some schools are a little harsher, and also getting statistics so we know who are the kids that were having issues, and are we doing that fairly across the board? Because we are a school district of very big diversity, and not only diversity in all aspects, but people coming in a real school system like the United States that we're having to integrate into our system, and making a way for this so they all feel welcome here. They all feel that they have a purpose in this community and that they're integrated. When they walk in that door from the office, they need to feel that. And they need to have somebody to go to if they need help and a safety issue. We do have forms and all that to fill out when something goes wrong. Teachers are really trying hard to do social and emotional teaching within their system. So those are some of the things that we're doing right now. I want to continue those.
So I agree with many of the things that have been said. Having spent my time in the military, it's a melting pot of people from across the country, across the world. I worked with a gentleman that was Welsh, but yet was in the U.S. Air Force. And that was very interesting. But what I think is important about that is we have a huge, diverse community here. And I think we need to embrace that. I think that's something that is an asset, that we look at that and say, we can do better. We can do things in a way that allows us to take that social and emotional learning, things like, student leaders, and teaching them that it's important to be a leader in your school. That's important that you take that role and show other kids how they need to act. When you're doing those sorts of things, I do believe that people will be able to do a better job and not have to work quite so hard to provide the type of environment that encourages that. When through the equity lens, often I hear the district saying things about equity when the actions that they take are equality, and those are not the same thing. When we want something to be equitable, we need to help those that need help, and we need to look for them and find them and then help them and follow up. We need to check it again and again and again. And if we don't do that, we keep falling behind. It's the same reason that I believe our country is where it is, because we have allowed ourselves to forget about the community aspect, that everything is local. We need to make sure that we are working towards making this an inclusive community, that we all want to make things better, because everyone believes that. And if we work towards that type of goal, I believe that the safety issue will become less and less important, because everyone will be a part of the solution. And as long as we do that, I think we'll do well.
Thank you. Mr. Song, please.
Yeah, I think I'm going to sound very repetitive with the integration and the topic of mental health care in our systems, especially within the educational framework of how do we support the healthy growth and development and emotionally for the students within our school districts. What I hear constantly are a lot of fluff about we need to do X, Y, and Z. But what I'm not hearing are what are those actual tangible steps that we're going to be taking to ensuring that we can provide the level of support and services that our students are needing, that a lot of individuals are fighting for and advocating for. I think what needs to happen on this board is that we need individuals like myself who can take personal experiences of being a clinician in this field and actually applying that work. The ways that I would do that is, one, addressing the policy barriers. I think there's issues around the inequity of services. We have a lot of policies between the OSPI with Medicaid that limit and prohibit the ability for community-based clinician and mental health providers to actively provide services to students during school hours. Let's tear that down. Let's do our research, let's submit proposals, and let's fight for this at a legislative level. The other thing we need to do is we need to integrate more evidence-based and peer-reviewed journals and articles and look at the research and implementation of programs that have worked in other schools. So just talking about them. I think there's a lot of benefits to being able to utilize action research where we take theories and actually apply them in the school districts. I have not seen that in the Kent School District. I constantly hear about we're looking into things, or we're processing, or we have these plans, but at what point are we going to utilize the talent that we have in the state, especially in terms of educators and providers who have insights and actual answers to solving the mental health crises in schools? Not only do we need wraparound services, but then we also have to look at socioeconomic impacts and variables that influence the way that people react and behave. As opposed to looking at the overt behaviors, I think we need to be able to position ourselves to look a little bit deeper. And that's something I think I can bring to the table.
Thank you.
Foster migrants and homelessness. These are the top three categories of people who have had disciplinary issues in the Kent School District, as stated on OSPI. For me, I like data. I like to utilize data to make decisions and look at patterns and how to make things better. Going back to what I said before, having more adults within the schools will further, help, with different situations. With those three categories mentioned, obviously outside of the school, that's causing issues. So it goes down to, are we going to just discipline people? Are we going to just allow the bullying to occur? Or are we going to try to solve the problem so it doesn't happen again and make better students? And it's been said, that's what happens when you go last, I guess, but mental health. I think more mental health within the schools can help combat a lot of this. And it needs to be recognized. Of those three things I mentioned, you don't have to answer, but how many people understood that those are the categories for people that have had disciplinary issues? But with that being said, I think there's a lot of room for improvement, a lot of room for growth. I think it takes some culture changing, and I think I could help make that happen.
Thank you very much. Okay, those were the last of the questions. So now we'll begin with a 90-second closing statement from the candidates. We'll go ahead and start with Mr. Songs.
Yeah, thank you, KBAC, for allowing us this time and platform and to bringing us into this space. Again, I think me being able to enter this position or the role as a school board director, I'd really like the opportunity to introduce new perspectives and different ways that we can look at the problems that we're currently facing. As somebody who operates a social service and counseling agency, I'm a full-time faculty at a university and I teach. I do research. My doctorate is in special education and in counseling, allowing me to enter the space and getting some insights into actual research and practices that work, I think could be the solution that Kent school districts are looking for, and also providing me with the opportunity to work alongside other board members to help us influence the larger communities where we're starting to look at local city council members, state legislation and representatives to actually make the policy changes that are necessary, as opposed to constantly putting out the fires and allowing the other fires beneath them to continue to brew and grow. And so again, thank you so much for this opportunity, and I look forward to in Kent School District.
Thank you, Mr. Carter.
So little time, so much to say. So I guess first I'd like to start off by again thanking our hosts for the KBAC Action Commission for hosting this event. It's been great to not only have an opportunity to speak to the public, but also hear what my colleagues, their views and how they feel. So going back to myself, my background in sales, marketing. I also have a finance background also. I've worked with budgets, balance sheets, so you'd be in good hands. But a lot of it for me it's my leadership skills and my out-of-box thinking. I would like to look for a different perspective and help change the culture, because I think change is needed. Again, I appreciate everybody here. I appreciate the audience, the opportunity to speak. And I would be humbled and honored to receive your vote.
Thank you.
I would like to say, when this position was vacated and I was able to put in, my name in the hat a year ago, I came in for a lot of different reasons, but the big one is passion. I love Kent schools. I love our teachers, our kids. I love our community. And so that is why I make sure that I'm available to hear the voices of all aspects of our community. I'm there in our schools, meeting our kids, meeting our teachers, meeting our principals, and being involved. This is not something that I just started a week ago, a year ago. This is something I've lived my entire life. Kent is who I am, and I'm so proud to be able to give back my time and talent back to the district that has given so much. My commitment to the district, my commitment to my community, showing the different programs I've been part of, the different committees within Kent School District, volunteering for the Kent School District. It all culminates in being able to be an effective board director in consensus building, being able to ask tough questions, being able to get along with people, and being able to think about where Kent is wanting to go, and then the steps that it takes to get there. Has this happened in 1 year? No, nothing can be built in just 1 year. But what it has done is we've moved the needle. And we continue to move the needle, and I look forward to continuing that process with the commitment that I have to the district, with my knowledge that I bring into it, but more than anything, just my passion, my love for this district. I really believe that I'm the right candidate to choose for this role. Thank you.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for the event tonight. It's always fun to be with friends. And I do wish to continue my role on the school board. I've learned a lot in the last 4 years. What I thought I could do is going to take a little longer. And not that I'm a miracle worker, because we have to do it with everybody included. But it takes a while to learn the job. I might say this is a job. When people say, you know, you're there for a few hours, a couple meetings a month, I'm very privileged to be retired and have the business experience, have the parent experience, have the PTA experience, have the community involvement to take on this job now and bring people together. And I also have 4 years now of board policy and all the intricacies of that. I'm now the legislative rep and really supposed to hold that position for 2 years. And whether you believe it or not, it's a paramount duty of the state to fund education. And quite frankly, when I learned that it went from 62% to 57% in funding, they're not doing their paramount job. So when they say they can't do it all, let's just do what your paramount duty is. And I hope to continue in this position and bring my best to this, because I said when I started, my goal is I love kids. I want all kids to succeed and have the opportunities that I've had and my children's had from a public education. It's the future of our nation, good public schools. Thank you.
So, in closing for me, my goal is to make the district the best district that it can be. I want to look everywhere around us and see how we can make things better. Seattle uses their district in a way that allows them to have a program for disabled students and put them in a place that makes it successful for them and allows them to do that. We take our kids and put them elsewhere because we don't want to spend the time or the money to be able to put them where they should be, which is in our schools with our teachers. We also have trouble retaining teachers. That's something that I believe is a failure of both the leaders at the top of the district, but also of our board. I appreciate the work that they do. And I know that they work hard. I don't doubt that one bit. But I do believe that there has been a lot of change in our district over the years, and not all of it good. I think we can do better. I know that as a parent of 2 children in the district, my wife is a teacher in the district. I grew up through this district. My parents did, my grandmother did, my great-grandparents did, all of that. Trying to make things better. And yeah, we might do it incrementally, but sometimes you have to do more than that. Sometimes you have to make it a lot of change all at once. And I think that that's where we are. I think that's where we want to be, and we can work towards a better environment. And I do believe that if we work with everyone together, we can do the hard things, and we can do them as quickly as we believe is possible. I don't think we need to wait. There's no reason why we need to do little incremental changes when we are so far behind in the things that we need to do that we can't just sit by and wait for things to happen. We need to take charge and make it happen. And I believe that with my experience and having served my country, and I want to serve again here in our community, and I hope that I can do that. I really hope that you find it in yourself to be able to vote for me, and we can make some.
Thank you. And that concludes today's forum. I do want to thank our candidates for taking the time to come up here and speak with us and share your thoughts with the public.
Charles and candidates, I hate to interrupt you, but can you indulge us with a couple more questions? I think Clarence has a question, and I also have a question. And I don't like to throw a monkey wrench into anything, but one of my burning questions, my personal burning question, is the salary for our superintendent. $355,000 a year for our superintendent for a 3-year period. So that means our superintendent will be making $1 million plus out of our budget for schools. How do you justify that if you agree with that? And do you think it should be the norm for someone to have such a high salary when we're having all these, troubles with our budget, with our pay, all of these kind of things? To me, it's inequitable, and I'd like to hear some reasonings why. And
Ooh, can I start us off?
yes, Andy, you can go ahead.
Okay. I think that number was very surprising. If you don't mind, can you repeat what that figure was again?
$355,000.
And as a member within the Kent City, and also somebody who would be vying for a position on the board, I'm not seeing $355,000 worth of services, changes, or improvements happening in our community. When we think about the inequities and equitable qualities of just the social makeup of the residents in Kent, that person is making close to 3,000% of the median income of the average household that lives in this district. Now, unless I start seeing us win in every type of football game, basketball game, our kids are all going to Harvard, I'm not sure how this budget was approved. And so my opinion on this case is no, I think that is outrageous. And I think what we need to do as a board is to take a look at the inequities in terms of salary distribution and see where we need to make the appropriate cuts and the appropriate changes.
Here, let me chime in on that too. So I remember when because there's 3 candidates that ran for superintendent. We all know Superintendent Vela. He's a nice guy. He's always has been. There was another person from the Seattle School District who interviewed. That personally I thought was a little bit better, but I thought the school board chose with what they're comfortable with. And then as a citizen, I watched this negotiation happen after someone was hired for a huge pay increase. And that's part of the reason why I'm here, because I don't think it's equitable. I don't think it's appropriate. And it's just, to go along with those other words, it's just not right. If we wanted to figure out what kind of talent we can get at that pay scale, we should have had it out there and let people interview for that. And maybe we would have a different leader today. But for the school board to give somebody who a majority of them stated at the time, we're friends with him and he's a good guy, which he is a good guy. I'm not taking that away, but that doesn't justify the pay increase at the expense of the taxpayers and ultimately with budget shortfalls, because as we all know, schools aren't 100% funded.
So I was not on the board when that decision was made. And so everything that was into it obviously wasn't part of all of that. What I can say is that we need consistency in our district, and we need somebody that can be there that is a quality candidate and can be in our district for a long time. When we look at pay anywhere of our leadership, we need to make sure that we look at equity within the people that report up. And so I would go back and say, well, what are we paying our teachers? What are we paying our custodians? What are we paying our paras? And I think that we need to have a bottom-up view in how we choose to pay our leaders. I would also say that we want to make sure that Kent is not a stepping stone. We are a destination. And I want to make sure that we choose people that we want to have, that want to stay with us, and that are going to be with Kent School District, so we can see the consistency of change and the consistency of growth and the consistency of really vision building and achieving within our district, and that we have the right talent to do that. That is at a salary level that is in line with those who report up within the district.
Well, this is a very interesting question. And yes, I was on the board when we made this decision, and quite frankly, I wish I could openly speak about what happened in an executive session. An executive session, I'm sure this sounds like not a very good answer to you, but I can't. I'm prohibited by some parameters. I will say this in general, we did hire a search firm. They did go out and brought us quite a slew of candidates from across the United States. And then we narrowed that down and we narrowed it down and then we narrowed it down to 3 candidates at the end. The candidates all came and we had an opportunity, and I had more of an opportunity. At the time, I was president of the board, and I walked and talked with them, and they were in different Christian situations. And I do feel strongly that we did hire the right person. Israel Vela is Hispanic. He's well known in the community. He has 37 years of educational experience, from being a teacher, from being a principal, to being administration in large school districts, not only the Kent School District, but the Seattle School District, and came back to Kent where he lives. He has 3 children here that went through the Kent system. And I'm not here to advocate, that he's a great guy, because it takes more than being a great guy. To me, it takes experience, and he had the experience. He was our interim. I saw a lot of stuff that he did during his interim realm that other interims weren't doing. He was actually coming in and being a superintendent. As far as the pay scale, I think it's important for you to realize that we were way behind on where we should have been in pay in comparable districts. I will say this too in general. When I look at those salaries, it's alarming. But that is the going rate to get the top people in your district. And if you understand the pay scale, there's a huge amount of difference in, we are not one of the top paid school districts in this area, even though we're the 5th largest. There's all kinds of things that you don't know factor into that. Pensions and everything. We kept it down as much as we could. So again, I was alarmed. I cannot speak about an executive session, and that's why it happened.
For me, on this topic, I was very surprised at the amount of money that was provided to Mr. Vela. As far as the statements that have been made about it and whatnot from the board, initially, the person I'm challenging, which is, of course, Ms. Hamada here, she was against raising the pay of the superintendent at the beginning of the search. After he was brought on, later on, she decided to vote for that sort of huge increase. I don't know what her reasoning was. Maybe, as she says, there was an executive session that had some reason why she had to vote that way. It's possible. I don't know. I couldn't do it myself. And I don't believe that just because 18 different districts around us pay $400,000, that we need to pay $400,000. I think there are quality candidates at $60,000. Do I think that that's probably what we need to pay? No. But I'm saying quality people are everywhere. There's no reason why we need to find an educated, perfect person to come and educate our students. Not that we would be against that, but why are we not looking at all the options? Why aren't we looking at, other districts and who's doing a great job there? And maybe there's an assistant superintendent that's doing fantastic work, and we can look at them. But that's why I think we need to not look at money as being a way to bring someone in. And that's how I feel about that subject.
Well, I thank you very much for indulging that question. It's a hard question, but when we were talking about our residents and our community, a lot of people don't understand, especially when you have mothers or families that are worrying about daycare, the cost of daycare, the cost of housing. So in everyday life, it seems like people are saying, what were you thinking? And Leslie, I appreciate you being forthright or forthcoming with why you can't speak about it. But somewhere, somebody has got to tell the people. That's my opinion. So our last question is going to come from Clarence. And it's probably something that we can get some short answers from. And I appreciate your patience, but I think there are some things that really need to be brought to the forefront.
In the earlier rounds with the city council races, there was a question dealing with LGBTQ community and safety and whatnot, and this is just a variation on it. If elected on the school board, how would you ensure the safety of LGBTQIA community students?
All right. So as far as the LGBTQIA plus students that we have at the schools, I grew up in a very open school going to Kent Lake when I went there. I myself am part of that community. Yes, I'm married to a woman, but I'm a bi male. My daughter is a lesbian. I've struggled through that my whole life. Serving in the military, an easy process for me. But I do believe that we can do better and we can work towards that just by encouraging students to see other people, no matter what their background is, and say, you know what, they're kind of like me. And that's important. I think us working towards that sort of goal, just saying we accept people for who they are and who they say they are, and that's it. There's no more to it than that. We need to make sure that when we see someone come to us and they're struggling, that we're there to help them. And I think that's something, not that I'm saying the district isn't doing it now, I'm just saying that's something we need to focus on. And I think that will better prepare our students across the district for a life where they can hopefully be accepting of everyone that's in whatever way they are living their lives. And hopefully that's something that we can do.
This is a pretty easy one for me to answer because we have policies and laws, and they govern us very well. And we do follow those policies and laws very specifically. We have ways to fill out forms. If people go against that, we take them very seriously and we take care of it. And we do need to be very aware that in every angle of diversity, we need to follow our policies. These are our schools, our public schools. It's made up of all races, creeds, colors, and sexuality, and we need to appreciate that. That's what will make our country stronger, to be inclusive. I have votes in a matter of record that I voted from the dais that show that I want everybody to be able to learn about different things through books. Thank you.
And I think it's more than just a single factor. So I'm diving right in. And I think it's a little bit of both of these, right? It is both the policies and the procedures that we have and the sustainability of them and the implementation of them and following through with what we say we're going to do, right? And I think that that's probably the biggest, and that goes back into what I believe was trying to be said with the first one is a culture. We have a culture that we accept the people. We have a culture and LGBTQIA plus, absolutely. We take people where they're at. And I think that this is what actually is like the core of public schools, right? Is that we take everybody where they're at and we educate them and get them through graduation. And we love them all through that process. And that's not just our students, that's our teachers, that's our administrators. And, you know, it's funny, I'm sure on Facebook you can find people making fun of me because I said, we need to be kind to one another. I don't know, my mama taught me to be kind. And I think it's important. I think that we need to learn how to do that and show it to our children in both of the actions that the board says on the dais, what our teachers say to our students, and encouraging our students to say to each other. And so it's through the policies and it's through the culture that we build.
Again, I agree. I think a lot of it does come down to culture, but there's a culture at the district level, but then there's a culture within each individual school. And then we talk about the issue of equity. We may have strong supports at Mill Creek, but we may not have those strong supports at Canyon Ridge. What do we do to get there? I don't think I have the answer today. However, I know what I'd like to see. I would like us to put more focus and have more teachers. They don't even have to be teachers, staff members in leadership positions to recognize their students and to help everybody feel more accepted. There's a question earlier about bullying. Well, why does bullying happen? It happens because we allow it. It's because we don't step in. There's an old saying I had to deal with years ago, and they say, well, boys will be boys. Well, no, it's not, because you're going to build up tension and you're going to have negative reactions. And that's not what we want. That's not what I'd want to see as a board member. What I'd like to see is ways that we can do positive influence for the better of our students.
I think this is a really difficult question to answer in such a short frame of time. I would say my immediate response, though, would be to ensuring that there's a way that we can hold leaders and school officials accountable for upholding and ensuring that the policies, procedures, laws, and all the different protections that are granted to every type of student is followed through on. I think what we fail to see happening within the school districts currently is that there's a lack of ownership and accountability. I think we also need protection for the leaders, because when we act or behave and produce a response to controversial topics, as a gay individual, I think one of the things that happens is we fall into this trap of oversimplification of identities. And oftentimes the procedures or protections that are put in place are well-intended but ill-executed. And I think what we can do is take a look at the population that's being harmed and taking that survey and identifying what type of protections currently don't exist, and then how do we implement the ones that need to exist.
Thank you so much for indulging those last two questions. And this has been a very exciting part for our forum today, as far as I'm concerned. And just wanted to thank the audience who is still here with us. Let's give them a hand. I know it's kind of long, but we do really, truly appreciate your willingness to come. And again, you will be seen via our social media stream. And Davis will make sure that after we're done here, that you guys can have your time on his camera so you can speak and, say what you want to say, be friendly with the people. I don't know, whatever you want to say. But thank you so much for taking the time. And so I think that concludes our forum for this afternoon, evening. And again, I appreciate those out there in the social media world for watching now and later, because it will be left up for quite a while. So you can go back and visit your answers. You guys have got a long road ahead of you. You got more forums to go to, and I wish you all the best. So thank you so much. And I think we're done for tonight. Everybody drive safe, get home safely, and we'll see you next time.